Hello and welcome to the 27th episode. My sister had to actually correct me. I thought we were on 26 again because it's Groundhog Day, but number 27 in the PEM podcast episode list. That's my bird in the background, laughing hilariously. PEM podcast, Psychic Eye Mystery Podcast. I'm your host, Victoria Laurie, with my fabulous sister, Sandy, coming to you that you will see recorded, but right now we're alive, which, I had my doubts last week. So the reason that we are a little bit late recording and getting this up was I had a terrible case of food poisoning Monday night, Tuesday morning. It was bad. It was like, please take me to urgent care bad. Give me a shot in the ass to make me stop vomiting bad. So it was a rough week for sure. And I kept trying to catch up and just didn't until this week. So it's not Sandy's fault. She, always comes prepared. It is me. This is why my nickname, Last Minute Laurie, rides again. So anyway, so how you doing, Sands? You doing good? How's your summer going so far? How's the bunny gate? How's bunny gate?
I hate that bunny. Little baby bunny gets born every year in my yard. And usually it's cute. You watch it, it scampers, So I've been doing that. And then it started eating all of my freshly planted flowers that I spent hundreds of dollars at the nursery on. And I bought this rabbit spray, like supposed to be a deterrent. It's not working. So now
by this news.
Yeah.
It's not working.
So 4 of the plants out of the 12 I planted have been gnawed down to the bare stubs. Like they'll never bloom. Not
so
happy.
Did you take my advice? And
no, I did not.
So my advice was, and I have no idea if this will work, but like it's worth a shot.
No, it is not.
Is to go to the grocery store and get, the live lettuce with like the roots at the bottom, right? So you can keep it in your fridge and it'll keep longer. I'm like, just plant those, just plant a couple of those,
and attract more wildlife to eat my yard. Yes, for sure.
Or next year you could just plant flowers in pots, just a suggestion.
It's a wonderful suggestion, except the yard does not support it. It's
whatever. A circle. I get it. Yes. And there's a little bit of elevation. But I will say your yard is a beautiful little sanctuary. You've just done a marvelous job with it over the years. So this coming from my sister, who only a couple of years ago, no green thumb at all.
Killed everything. Yeah. Oh, you're supposed to water that?
And now she's got this little oasis going on. It's kind of cool. Okay, so let's get to it. The book that that we are showcasing this week is Killer Insights number 4 in the Abby Cooper Psychic Eye Mysteries. This one, like every book I write, is always has a couple of characters that are modeled after people that I've known. So the premise of this book is Abby and Dutch have a pretty major misunderstanding, and she's bridesmaid in the wedding of a former best friend of hers. Well, I shouldn't say former, in a dear friend of hers. And so she heads out to Colorado. She is feeling that she and Dutch have broken up, and she encounters again this best friend's brother, who she's always had a thing for. So they kind of strike up a little bit of a romance. And then bridesmaids begin to die. Of course they do. Hello. And the thing about this novel that sticks in my memory, it's not necessarily the story. It's the fact that it got reviewed. I forget in what publication, Publishers Weekly or something. I think it was Publishers Weekly. And it got like 2 stars. Like the woman gave it like 2 stars. And I was like, what the freak? Like I thought I wrote a good book. Well, it turns out she was just about to get married. So when like wedding disaster at page after page after page, yeah, I'd be a little turned off by that book too. So, don't read it if you're about to have a wedding, I guess. But do if you're already married or, it's down the road for you. Anyway, so yeah, it's a cute little story. There's a character in here named Vivian, and I will be honest, Vivian helped me flesh out the character of Gilly. Vivian is the grandmother in the group, and she just kind of is outspoken and does what she wants to do when she wants to do it. So there's a scene where that takes place at a country club, and the silver gets put into Vivian's pocketbook, along with rolls, along with whatever else she can stuff in there. So she's had a little bit of Sophia Petrillo from the Golden Girls, and later on in subsequent books for the MJ Holiday series, the Ghost Hunter Mystery series, she helped to kind of give Gilly a little bit more life. I so enjoyed writing a character like that, you know, that didn't obey rules and just said what they thought, no filter whatsoever. I loved it. So that's Killer
Of course,
Insight.
that would absolutely appeal to you. No filter, say whatever you want, think whatever you want. Yeah. Total.
I
Can't
don't
figure out why
personally
you weren't
have
inspired.
that quality. I don't, it's so hard for me to make it up. Yeah. Yeah. Although I will say I've been doing much better. You know, honestly, the past couple of years I've been doing much better. Like I have been. Don't look at me skeptically. I have been better. I mean, come on. You've known the rough days, the really rough days. The I don't know her, she's not my sister days. So whatevs. I've gotten better.
You're
I've
always
mellowed
my
with time.
sister. You're always my sister. That's not ever going to change.
Yeah, I keep trying to divorce you. It just won't take.
Keep
You are
avoiding the
stuck with me,
server.
bitch.
Yeah,
You're just stuck with me. Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, I have two really cool little anecdotes. So sometimes I get very, very fortunate, and I will get a spirit in from the other side, and they just stun me with how clever they are. As I've said before on this podcast, I don't really hear them. There's no like voice. They just give me a sense of something or a feeling like, they will flash little images in my mind's eye, right? So it's kind of like hieroglyphics. I've got to sort of put it together. So I was reading last week for, this was the day after I had food poisoning. I was reading for a woman, and she was so wonderful. She allowed me to reschedule her reading, reading for her, and her father came in, and just a wonderfully excited, exuberant soul, had wonderful poo, 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 you know, like details that were easily confirmed. This woman had a son, and he had earlier referenced the son just sending love to his grandson, right? So then in my mind's eye, he flashes a baseball jersey. So immediately I say, did your dad love baseball? And my client was like, I don't know, one of those, right? So obviously he wasn't like a huge fan of baseball, right? Didn't have, a team that he followed or whatever, right? Probably just a general sense of I like sports, right? So in my mind, I go back to the guy and I'm like, you are not showing me anything that she is able to identify as confirming it's you. So he drew a 9 on the pocket of the jersey, and he put a 9 on the back, and then he put the jersey on. And he kept emphasizing the 9, 9, 9, 9. So I said, well, he keeps showing me the number 9. Like the jersey is like number 9 in the front, number 9 on the back. And she goes, oh my God, Victoria, he was born on September 9th, 9/9. So I just thought that was so incredibly clever. And sometimes you have to wait a minute, like sometimes they're busy kind of trying to bring together the meaning. And, I tend to jump the gun. Baseball jersey, he loved baseball, right? And the guy's probably like, will you just hold on a second? Let me draw a 9 here. So sometimes you have to kind of wait a second. And then the second anecdote was also from this past weekend. And reading for a woman, and her mother, I think it was a mother or a grandmother came through. I can't remember which one, but it was a female figure came through. And just, I was, with this woman's help, I was knocking it out of the park, just, and I love that. I love when it's just so specific and jaws are dropping and, I'm excited. And I'm pretty sure it was her mother. Her mother had referenced her granddaughter, so this woman's daughter. And I confirmed that she had a daughter. And then I saw a kangaroo in my mind's eye, which is my symbol for Australia. So I looked at my client and, every time like they show me something like that, I try and it's weird, but I try and put their energy in Australia, right? Or in whatever situation is being shown to me. And it's hard to describe, but it's almost as if you can move the energy into the thing and see if it fits, right? And it didn't. Like her energy in Australia didn't fit. So I'm like trying to figure this out. And then the mother kind of pulled my attention back to the daughter. So I said to her, how old is your daughter? Because this woman wasn't a whole lot younger than I was. And she said, she's 28. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, does your daughter want to go to Australia? And the woman goes, like her jaw drops. And she goes, Victoria, I named her Sydney after Sydney, Australia. Right? Like how clever and cool is that? I love that. I absolutely just, so clever. It's so cool.
Don't you get the baseball jersey? You always say, knock it out of the park. So he was helping you knock it out of the park.
See? Yeah, he did. Quit reminding me of my lingo there, sister girl. Yeah, so those are my 2 anecdotes for the week. I had so much fun with clients after I was kind of able to recover a little bit. It was just, spirits were knocking it out of the park. They were doing a great job last week. So I hope the trend continues. Okay, so this is an interesting case, Sans. I love that it's got roots so far back and that it's about someone who disappeared from West Point, the only person ever to disappear from West Point, which is, you think about the history of how long West Point's been around, right?
Mhm.
And how, elevated, everybody thinks of West Point cadets and all of this stuff. So it's really intriguing. So take it away, and
Okay.
then I will give you my thoughts.
Richard Colvin Cox, a second-year cadet, disappeared from the New York U.S. Military Academy at West Point on January 14th, 1950. Prior to his disappearance, he was visited 3 times over the course of 1 week by a man whose first name may have been George. On the 3rd occasion of their meeting, Richard and George left the grounds of the academy and were never seen or heard from again. What happened to Cadet Cox? Over the years, speculation has included that he ran away with George to start a new life and a career outside of the military, that he was recruited into the CIA, or that he disappeared because of some nefarious activity he'd been involved with, like a cheating scandal or a fake ID enterprise. Richard Colvin Cox was born in Mansfield, Ohio, to Rupert and Minnie Colvin Cox on July 25th, 1928. Richard was the youngest of 6 children of a family of Christian Scientists. His father, Rupert, died when Richard was 10 due to an aggravated diabetic condition, which he may have survived with proper medical attention. Richard's mother assumed the running of the family business at the Rupert F. Cox Insurance Agency. After graduating high school in 1946, Richard joined the U.S. Constabulary Force, a police-type security force in Allied-occupied Germany. In 1947, Richard applied for and received his appointment to West Point and arrived on campus in January of 1948. Academically, Richard was ranked at about 100 out of a class of 550. He joined West Point's athletic team and competed in the national NCAA competition. He was also engaged to be married. He and his fiancée, Betty Timmons, planned to marry after his graduation from West Point. At 4:45 p.m. on Saturday, January 7th, 1950, 1 week before his disappearance, a man with a patronizing tone telephoned the barracks requesting to speak with Richard. The call was answered by West Point classmate Peter Haynes. He told the man that Cadet Cox was not in his room, and the man replied, "Well, look, when he comes in, tell him to come down here to the hotel. Just tell him George called. He'll know who I am. We knew each other in Germany, and I'm just up here for a little while, and tell him I'd like to get a bite to eat." At 5:30 p.m. that evening, a man described with fair hair and a complexion as slightly under 6 feet tall, weighing about 185 pounds, entered Grant Hall, an area where cadets could meet guests, and asked to see Cox. The cadet on duty telephoned Cox to tell him that he had a visitor, and when Cox entered the hall, he shook hands with the man, seemingly glad to see him. Cox signed out of the company B2 departure book, indicating he would have dinner off campus. Richard returned to the cadet company B2 at 1923, but signed in at 1823 in the departure book, so he would appear to have attended the cadet supper in formation. He admitted to his roommates that he had not dined out, but rather drank whiskey while sitting in his friend's car. He then took a shower and went to bed to sleep off the effects of the alcohol he consumed earlier. The next morning, prior to Sunday's chapel service, Richard shared with his roommates some additional details about his friend. The man was a former U.S. Army Ranger who had served in the same unit as he had in Germany. The man liked to brag about killing Germans during the war and had boasted having gotten a German girl pregnant and then murdering her to prevent her from having a baby. Later that Sunday afternoon, Richard signed out a second time to meet the man, returning at about 4:30 in the afternoon. Upon his return, he remarked to his roommates with distaste that he hoped he wouldn't have to see that fellow again. 1 week later, on the day of his disappearance on Saturday, January 14th, Richard watched a basketball game between the Army and Rutgers University. Afterwards, he was seen talking to a man thought to be George, although the cadet who saw the two talking gave a description that differed greatly from the description given by Peter Haynes, who had seen the stranger in Grant Hall on January 7th. According to this cadet, George was dark-haired and rough-looking. Cox returned to his dorm room and mentioned to a roommate that he was signing out to dine with his visitor again, although he appeared sort of disgusted but not apprehensive. With that, the two men left the grounds of the academy and vanished without a trace. When Cox failed to return by 11 p.m. that evening, no alarm was raised because cadets occasionally stayed out overnight. On Sunday morning, his roommates reported all that they knew of the matter to their superior. The New York State Police and the CID were informed. The FBI also became involved in the investigation. 3 days after Richard Cox's disappearance, a public appeal for information was broadcast on nearby radio stations. The grounds of West Point were intensively searched on foot and by helicopter. The nearby pond and the Lusk Reservoir were dragged. The banks of the Hudson River were searched. A 2-month-long manhunt produced no significant leads. A search of Army records for a soldier who had served with Cox matching the description of George only led to individuals who could not have been at West Point at the time of the disappearance. Cox's service in Germany was investigated and revealed nothing out of the ordinary. The theory that he had deliberately deserted the West Point institution was discounted, as he had left behind in his room $87, which is about $1,000 in today's dollars, and 2 civilian suits of clothes. 2 months following his disappearance on March 15, 1950, Cox was listed as absent without leave. He was declared legally dead in 1957. Reported sightings and theories about Richard Cox's disappearance include 2 years after his disappearance from the academy, Ernest Shotwell Jr., a former classmate from the U.S. MA Preparatory School at Stewart Field, claimed he had run into Cox at the Washington, D.C. Greyhound Line bus station, which at the time Shotwell did not know that Cox had been missing. During the encounter, Cox seemed uncomfortable and was vague about his plans for the immediate future. Another alleged sighting was made in 1960 by an undercover FBI agent. The agent said he met a man who was going by the name of R.C. Mansfield, but later told the undercover agent that his real name was Richard Cox. While later attempts were made to contact the man again, the FBI agent unfortunately never heard from him. Ralph E. Johns, a high school acquaintance of Cox, relayed that when discussing the Cox case with former FBI agent Vince Napoli, Napoli told him that the FBI had been within 24 hours of grabbing Cox, and he couldn't understand why the FBI would not let them pick him up or why they pulled him off the case. Based on Napoli's story, Johns has speculated that Cox might have gotten into some secret government agency such as the CIA. Other supporters of the CIA theory have suggested that Cox died of cancer in 1999, with his alias having never been revealed. In 1986, after a retired teacher began a personal quest to find out what happened to the only person to ever vanish from the West Point Military Academy, talked to a California detective that through an anonymous tip learned that Richard Cox and a man formerly known as Robert Dion had been stationed at Fort Knox together. Robert Dion coincidentally matched all the descriptions of George the man had seen at West Point. The two friends had apparently been involved in a fake ID scandal that took place in New York. Still, others have suggested that Cox, anxious to get out of his engagement to Betty Timmons, ran away with George to assume a new life and possibly with a male partner. What happened to Richard Cox has remained a mystery for over 72 years. Did he join the CIA? Was he running from the FBI? Or perhaps just the constraints of a traditional lifestyle? My sources for this story include Wikipedia and onlyinyourstate.com, posted in New York by Lee Monroe, February 14th, 2016. So what do you think happened, B?
So I don't think that George, I do think George was real. I do think that George had spent time in Germany and that he and Richard had that in common. I don't know if they knew each other in Germany. That, to me, I'm not quite sure. They might have met there. I believe that Richard was gay. That, like, the second I started reading it, like by the second paragraph, I was like, these two had a thing. And I just was like, he was trying to conform into a life that he really didn't fit into. So I did a little bit of an automatic writing into it about it. And the analogy that I kept getting was he was a puzzle piece put in the wrong puzzle, and he needed to come out of that puzzle and go into the right puzzle. So the constraints of Christian Science, upbringing, that religion, marrying, the good girl, going to West Point, and conforming, I think just kind of caught up with him. And I think George was the one who wouldn't let it go. I think George was working on him. Listen, you got to own who you are. As far as George getting a German woman pregnant and murdering her, I mean, come on. I'm not buying it. Okay, that's something that a boastful person says. That is not something that, like, I just am not buying that part of the story. Okay, like, I'm sure he might have told Richard that, but I don't think he did it. As far as being recruited into the CIA, so here is where, again, it's really interesting, the parallels sometimes between these stories and our family. So our father was in the army, and he spent time in Germany. He would have been there 1950, 1951, 1952.
I think he was in Korea, not.
No, he was in Germany. He was
I paid attention.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, he was in Germany. Yeah, he definitely was in Germany. And I remember that because he used to talk about that they had to patrol the fence between Russian-held territory and Western-held territory.
The wall, yeah.
Yeah.
The Berlin Wall.
I don't know if it was up at that point, but this would have been like 1950. It would be interesting kind of research when that went up. But anyway, he used to talk about, his days as a cook. He was a cook over there. Anyway, so it's interesting. Our father also had a master's degree in Russian studies from Johns Hopkins University. And there is a story that he used to tell us about meeting with a CIA agent who wanted to recruit him. And for whatever reason, he said no. So having heard stories from my father, who didn't tend to really embellish too much. I mean, sure, there's a little bit there. Of course there is, like the storyteller doesn't fall far from the tree, but nothing wild like, a CIA agent boasting about killing German women, murdering them and their baby. Like, I'm not buying that a CIA agent intent on recruiting someone would start with that, like it's stupid. It's just ridiculous. So I don't think he was inscripted into the CIA. And even if he had been, there'd be no reason to pull him from West Point until he graduated. It's not like, look, this is a kid. He's a kid. you know, we didn't have other resources.
Yeah.
We needed this, you know, like freshman, sophomore, whatever he is, right, to come into the CIA, be conscripted into the CIA, and run clandestine, you know, investigations where he couldn't reveal his true identity. Again, conspiracy theory, weak, you know, crazy bullshit. So I don't buy that at all. As far as the FBI agent who supposedly was about to grab Richard, that he and George were in some sort of scheme. Again, it just doesn't ring my bell of truth. And I really want to lend credence to things that actual FBI agents say, right? Certified FBI agents say, but it just doesn't, it just doesn't hold water for me. It just doesn't. I am trying to do it. I don't know if it was another man that he was almost about to grab. I have no idea. I have no idea, but it just wasn't ringing my bell of truth. The one eyewitness testimony that I felt like boom, was Shotwell, who met him at the bus station in DC. So I really feel that was an actual encounter. So again, from the first paragraph, didn't believe that Richard had been murdered. So I do believe that he encountered his own schoolmate and that they had a short, brief interaction. And I also believe that Richard was passing through. I don't think he was in the DC area. But again, you know, you get that tidbit, and you can kind of go, oh, well, maybe he was working for the CIA because, you know, that's where they found him, right? Coincidence, as far as I'm concerned. When I was trying to get a bead on him, on his energy, I do believe he's crossed over. I did not reach out to him on the other side, but I do believe that he is now on the other side, and he would have been he'd be in his 90s by now, well into his 90s. So I believe that he has crossed over. When I was trying to get a bead on like where he spent the bulk of his life, I kept getting drawn to like the Indiana, Chicago kind of border between Illinois and Indiana. Like I kept getting pulled there, but I don't think he lived necessarily in Chicago. I feel like he was south, kind of towards Indiana. And then when I was trying to hone in on what I thought he did for a living, I had a symbol for teacher pop into my brain. So I think that he probably was convinced by George that he was living a false life, and that if he wanted to live in his authentic self, as risky as it was in the 1950s to do that as a gay man, that he needed to basically divorce himself of his identity. And that meant everything. And I think that he and George probably had a relationship for a period of time, but I don't believe it lasted. And I believe that he ended up probably with someone else, is sort of my feeling. And again, you know, this is, you can say, okay, Victoria, you have nothing to base that on. I understand, but this is the route that my intuition is navigating, kind of this very sketchy maze. There's not a lot of information there. And so that's sort of my feeling.
Well, you know what I think is interesting is the speculation about the fake ID scandal that took place in New York. It would make sense if he was looking to change his identity to have touched upon that and then, you know, kind of moved west. So, yeah.
Right. But, you know, there's a feeling like, like crime has an energy, right? When you are committing crimes, we're not talking about speeding. We're talking about like, you know, manufacturing fake IDs, right? Do I think he might have purchased a fake ID? Yes.
Yeah, that's
but
what I'm thinking.
There's this sense of honesty with him, you know, even though he disappeared, right, and was okay with people basically calling him dead, you know, declared as dead. I just feel that he was really constrained by a life that just didn't fit him and an identity that really did not fit him. And it was this one chance, I think he thought, to escape it. Because if he had continued, the pressure to get married, the pressure to, you know, conform and take a job where being found out as being gay could kill you.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, it would absolutely probably imprison you. You'd then end up in the brig for sure, doing probably hard time. Hello, train.
Well, there was the California detective who felt that Richard had assumed the name of Robert Dion, but had been at Fort Knox.
Yeah.
No.
It's so ridiculous. Like, it's just so ridiculous, you know? I mean, think what you want about conspiracy theories. I tend to look at them as like, how much sense does that make? You know, here's, so you're telling me that the two guys stationed at Fort Knox are one kind of nefarious character, right? That no one can identify, who is claiming
Yeah.
that he's murdered a German woman, and because she's pregnant, and they took this freshman, right, sophomore, whatever he was, out of
West Point.
West Point, and turn him into a guard at Fort Knox. Just insane.
Yeah.
Like, that makes no sense whatsoever at all. So sorry, big skeptic on that one. No.
Okay. So basically he assumed the life, a mild-mannered life as a teacher
And I think that
Indiana, Illinois.
If he had disappeared from any other, if he disappeared from a college, right, just regular normal college, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But because it's West Point and he's the only one to ever disappear, it develops a life of its own.
Yeah.
And then, subsequent speculation. But I don't think, I don't know if you leave the academy without, I don't know, are you AWOL? Are you committing a crime? I don't know.
He was declared absent without leave. So yeah,
he could have been
processed.
Would have desertion, right?
Yeah.
So of course he couldn't tell anybody,
Right.
if that is in fact what he did. If he just said bye and left to go take up a new life, he couldn't tell anybody, because he would have been, I don't know if there's any statute of limitations with that. I think military courts are kind of scary things. So yeah, I don't think he would have told anybody his past. Too risky, far too risky, far too risky. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that he ended up having the life that he fit.
I hope he did. I hope I'm right.
Yeah.
I really hope I'm right. So it would be a shame to think of a nefarious end for him, obviously. And there's just no, like I've said before, murder has an energy, and there's just no there. Like, that's the first thing I look for. And I couldn't find it. So.
Well, I'm glad that we aren't doing a murder mystery this week.
I know. Oh my God. Yeah, I know. My God. Right. So no reason to be depressed this week, guys. Right. Tune in next week when we level you. Oh my God.
I'd like to give a shout out to the fan that posted the comment about,
So fantastic.
if I ever get murdered, I'd like Sandy and Victoria to do the story about me. I think that's freaking hilarious. So
and we will.
We will.
Yes.
But please don't.
Please don't die. Please don't die. Yes. Don't take that as an invitation to walk down any dark alleys, in a seedy part of town. Okay.
Please.
Stay alive. We will find you.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I thought that was awesome. And then the subsequent comment that we were delightful as children. And Sandy and I promptly went, of course we were.
No, we weren't.
Angels.
We were classic children. Classic children.
We were all right. But yeah, I don't think we were delightful. I really don't think we were delightful. I know I wasn't. I will own that one. I was definitely not delightful. So anyway, what are you going to do? But thank you to that fan. That really was a lovely perk to our day, and we got a terrific giggle out of it, and so flattering. Like I that's the most unusual, I think, compliment I've ever had. If I were murdered, I would want you to investigate it. I think, okay.
But not challenge accepted.
Yes, exactly. No, just stay alive. So yeah, I thought that was adorable, absolutely adorable. So thank you to the fan that posted that. That was really, really sweet. And we love comments from you. So please leave them. We're always, we read everything. We're supposed to comment back. I understand. And I suck at it. I'm just gonna own it. I'm terrible at that. I'm terrible, I'm terrible at calling back friends.
This is true.
Thanks, Sans. Thanks. She is not lying. Yeah, no, I mean, some days you have energy and some days, you don't. And yeah, it's hard to be it's not hard to be my sister, I hope, but sometimes it's hard to be my friend. Shut up. It's so mean. So mean. Yeah, it's, it being an introvert and being stretched too thin. So what are you gonna do? Anyway, all right, guys. This was fun, Sans. I love this one. Thank you. We'll have to dig into some more. We've got a couple that are centered around a theme coming up. And I think that they are honestly fascinating. So I'm really excited to do the next 4 because they're kind of famous and they are all linked by one
Famous person.
family. Well,
Family, famous people. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, we're excited.
Okay.
Anyway, if you would like to learn more about me, head to victorialaurie.com. If you would like to sign up for a reading, victorialaurie.com. If you'd like to learn more about my books, victorialaurie.com. It's all there under one umbrella. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and hit the like button. It really, really helps us out. And truly, truly, thank you to the fans that kind of consistently listen to us and watch us. We're basically doing nothing to promote this at all. And you guys are increasing our numbers just by talking about it. And we so appreciate you. You have no idea. It really, really, it warms our goggles. So thank you. All right, Skins. I love you. I will talk to you sometime this week.
Yes, when you call me back.
You just got to get that one more dig in. Just call you back. Well, now I'm not going to. No, I will, because I want to hear about the bunny. Because I find it because I find it delightful. So anyway, kill the rabbit.
No.
No bunnies were harmed in the recording of this podcast.
No, not yet.
Oh, but not yet.
Thank you all. Thanks
Try
for
the lettuce.
Yeah.
Try the lettuce all in
No,
one.
I'm not trying the lettuce. I'm hanging up now. Thank you all.
Bye, guys. Love you. Mean it. Bye.